I never imagined that declining a glossy HOA invite would lead to watching my century-old craftsman home go up in flames, until the morning Marcy Caldwell stood across the street, smugly sipping her latte, convinced she'd crushed the last rebel on Elmwood Lane. Little did she know, I'm a federal judge, Marcus Mark Carlisle, and she'd just lit the fuse on her own undoing. Before we dive in, comment below, which country are you watching from? That dawn felt like any other as I rocked on my grandmother's 1920 porch swing, nursing a mug of dark roast while the sun painted the sky peach over our green-trimmed eaves. Through the morning mist, I spotted Marcy Caldwell striding up with purpose, her designer heels clicking against the sidewalk. In her manicured hand was an envelope bearing the HOA seal. I braced myself. She dropped the invitation into my mailbox, paused, and snapped photos of my wildflower borders. "This is your final notice," she purred into her smartphone. I read the glossy brochure. Join the Elmwood Lane HOA. $6,500 initiation plus $400 monthly dues, or face enforcement measures. Mandatory modifications included swapping out my sage green siding, ripping up Grandma's heirloom rosebed, and removing the vintage wind chimes. That evening, I marched across the street, envelope in hand. The doorbell chimed. Eye of the tiger, of course. Marcy answered in her captain's sash and a patronizing smile. "I've reviewed your brochure," I said coolly. "My family's owned this house for 4 generations. We'll preserve its character." Her smile evaporated. "That's not optional," she snapped, eyes flashing. "Our HOA is fully registered and your lot is surrounded. You must comply." I produced my title search. My deed predated any HOA covenant. "I have zero legal obligation," I said, voice steady after 2 decades on the bench. Marcy's cheeks reddened. "You'll regret this," she hissed. Walking away, I noted the silent witnesses at neighbor windows, newcomers she'd rallied. I spent that night installing cameras around my property, recording every hedge trimming inspection they'd enforce. As the wind chimes sang me to sleep, I had no idea this was only Act 1 of a suburban nightmare. The next morning began with Marcy's shrill voice outside my window. "Look at that hideous green trim." I peered through the curtains to see her leading a pack of HOA members on their daily inspection. They photographed my roses, measured my grass, 11.2 inches, and taped bright orange violation notices to my door. Each complaint grew more absurd. Unapproved driveway stones, non-regulation bird feeders, dangerous wind chimes. I met every absurdity with calm documentation, historic preservation certificates, property line surveys, code exemptions. Still, they grew bolder. Scheduling landscapers at 6 a.m. to revamp my garden for safety, staging HOA meetings in my driveway so passersby would see me as the neighborhood pariah. One night, I reviewed my footage to find 2 board members slinking around my yard after midnight, chemical sprayers in hand. They doused my rose bushes with herbicide, killing my grandmother's legacy overnight. Determined to gather evidence, I scoured county archives and discovered a chilling pattern. Every homeowner who refused the Elmwood HOA had suffered mysterious fires or accidental structural collapses, then sold at a fraction of market value to shell companies linked to Marcy's sibling. I wired the treasurer's car and recorded her confession of cooking the books, funneling HOA funds into property flipping schemes. Then came the phone call no one expects in court. "Your Honor, your house, it's on fire." 15 minutes later, I arrived to see my beloved craftsman consumed by flames. Marcy and her cronies watched from across the street, latte in hand, applauding the inferno. Fire Chief Alvarez shrugged. "Electrical fault, ma'am, old wiring." I knew better. My annual inspection had passed with flying colors. As embers cooled, I uncovered the crucial clue. My cameras had been disabled at exactly 3 a.m., 4 hours before ignition. This was no accident. While neighbors whispered about insurance fraud, I felt the cold steel of resolve. Marcy thought she'd finished me. She'd only lit the match. Standing amid the ashes of my home, I made 3 calls to the FBI, to the state attorney's public corruption unit, and to a trusted private investigator. Neighbors whispered gossip, but I was busy weaving a federal RICO case. Property records revealed that 10 Graham County homes had burned under similar circumstances, then flipped into luxury condos by Marcy's real estate arm. Insurance payouts, code enforcement exemptions, forged inspections, all traced back to her clique. Armed with wiretapped confessions, banking ledgers, and surveillance footage of Marcy's midnight arson team, we convened an emergency HOA meeting in the community center. She strode in, coffee mug in hand, ready to declare me a public nuisance, until I quietly donned my judicial robe and announced, "I am Judge Marcus Carlisle, presiding over United States v. Caldwell et al., a federal RICO and arson conspiracy case. The room went silent. As FBI agents served warrants and handcuffs clicked, Marcy's husband, the retired fire marshal who'd ruled every blaze accidental, attempted to flee, only to be tackled. I laid out the evidence: text messages plotting each fire, bank transfers to shell companies, code enforcement bribes. The gavel I once feared on my own porch now swung decisively. 6 months later, I watched from my rebuilt porch swing, green trim restored, wind chimes singing, roses blooming, while construction crews put the finishing touches on my new home. Marcy Caldwell's assets had been seized and auctioned to compensate victims. She and her board mates faced decades in federal prison. Elmwood Lane formed a true community association. No more dictators, just neighbors helping one another. They thought burning down my past would bury me. Instead, it forged the toughest case of my career and reminded everyone that sometimes the best justice is watching a phoenix rise from the ashes. If you enjoyed this epic HOA showdown, hit like and subscribe for more tales of suburban drama and courtroom triumphs. The end.